I'll look to convene and call this meeting to order. Just some housekeeping items here at the start. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when you are speaking. Please keep that microphone up close to when you speak in person here. For those participating via Zoom, please remember to unmute your device and mind that mute button throughout the meeting. Also, if you are participating by phone, remember the *6 is to mute or unmute and *9 to raise your hand. So please, again, mind your mute button so we don't have that background interference and minimize any disruptions to our meeting, so we all have a good experience here this morning. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. So Mohammed, if you could do a roll call to get us going this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and member of the Transportation Safety Committee. So I'm going to do a roll call of the members. Please indicate your presence for the Safety Committee. Harry Wilcoxon from ADOT.
Present.
Raj Thoram from City of Avondale. John Willett from City of Buckeye.
Present.
Raymond Huang from City of Chandler.
Present.
Nick Russo from El Mirage.
Present.
Chris Salas from Town of Florence. Aaron Pinkerton from Town of Gilbert.
Present.
Tony Abbo from City of Glendale.
Present.
Matthew Reed from City of Goodyear.
Present.
Kate Drunaski from Field Park.
Present.
Kerry Osborne from City of Maricopa. Azan Murad from Maricopa County. Ryan Hudson from City of Mesa.
Present.
Chris Lemka from City of Peoria.
Present.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix. Tara Harman from Pinal County.
Present.
Yan Martin from Town of Queen Creek.
Here.
Sam Taylor from City of Scottsdale.
Present.
Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
Hi, I'm here.
Ellie Volusian from City of Tempe.
Present.
Frank Sotil from Valley Metro. Robert Gray from ASU. Captain J.P. Cartier from DPS. Alberto Goodyear from GOHS. Are there anyone not mentioned?
Mohammed, this is Raj Thodan from City of Avondale.
Thank you. And Frank Sotil from Valley Metro.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call, Mr. Chair.
Hey, Mohammed, this is Carl Langford from Phoenix. Sorry, I joined a bit late.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I think we meet roll call, so we'll move forward with the next item on the agenda. It's a call to audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MEG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to audience agenda item unless the committee requests an exception to this limit. Members of public are attending in person may deliver their comments from the lectern at the front of the room. If you have up to 3 minutes to complete your comments. MEG staff will notify you when you have 1 minute remaining and when your allotted time has expired. Have we received any requests to speak items?
No, Mr. Chair, we have received no items for this or any other item. I'm sorry, no public comments for this or any other item.
Are there any other members of the public here today who desire to speak on this item? All right. Move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the Transportation Safety Committee meeting held on August 23rd, 2022. Does any member of the Transportation Safety Committee have comments or revisions to the 23rd meeting minutes? All right, I'm not hearing none. Could I have a motion to recommend approval of the August 23rd, 2022 meeting minutes?
This is Tony Abu. I make a motion to approve.
And this is Kerry Wilcox. I will second the motion.
All right, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Carrie. So we have a motion and the second. We'll go ahead and vote on the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. If you abstain, please indicate so. Mohammed, can you take a roll call for the vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. Begin my roll call now. Kerry Wilcoxon from ADOT.
Approve.
Shane Cuso, Patty Junction.
Aye.
Raj Torum from City of Avondale.
Aye.
John Willett from City of Buckeye.
Approve.
Raymond Huang from City of Chandler.
Aye.
Nick Russo from El Mirage.
Aye.
Chris Salas from Town of Florence. Aaron Pinkerton from Town of Gilbert.
Aye.
Tony Ebo from City of Glendale.
Aye.
Matthew Reek from City of Goodyear.
Aye.
Kate Runaski from Litchfield Park.
Aye.
Carrie Osborne from City of Maricopa. Mazen Muradovich from Maricopa County.
Aye.
Ryan Hudson from City of Mesa.
Aye.
Chris Limka from City of Peoria.
Aye.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix.
Aye.
Tara Herman from Pinal County.
Aye.
Jan Martin from Town of Queen Creek.
Aye.
Sam Taylor from City of Scottsdale.
Aye.
Dana Oziani from City of Surprise.
Aye.
Ellie Valuzin from City of Tempe.
Aye.
Frank Sotel from Valley Metro.
Aye.
And that concludes the voting, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you everyone very much. Moving on, so we'll go to the highly anticipated program managers report, number 4. Margaret, will you go ahead and provide the report to the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. There's a couple of items on the program managers report. We'll try to get to them quite quickly today. Mohammed, if you could advance the slide. Thank you. So we're on a little bit of a holding pattern for finishing up the fiscal year 2022 road safety assessments. We have a couple of locations in Phoenix that are on hold due to some construction. We're trying to get a 3-week window that we can go in and finish the work and do the observations for that project. Just as a quick reminder that we do have new crash data for 2021, and this will help facilitate generating a new top 100 list of intersections ranked by crash risk for the MAG region for 2017 through 2021. And that will also lead into potential fiscal year 2023 RSA program locations. As far as the safe routes to school studies are going, work on the 11 safe routes to school studies have been resumed after the summer break. And we are still in the planning phase for fiscal year 2023 safe routes to school studies. We've already begun that work, and we will be seeking fee proposals for this work starting in early October. For the fiscal year 2022 local agency safety studies, we have completed this local agency safety study in Scottsdale. The study resulted in development of some recommendations for the McDowell Road Scottsdale to Hayden, which identified some safety improvements for inclusion in an RSP funding request application. Fiscal year 2022 CME AZ, I'm going to ask Chris to give us a quick update on that. Chris, if you'd like to come up and.
Thank you, Margaret, and members of the Transportation Safety Committee. Yes, we've been working really hard with our media consultant in particular to update materials for advertising. We've actually developed a new logo. That is the old logo on that screen right now. The final files are actually just delivered late last night. And we also have 3 new video ads. And in general, all of the new ads are more specific and targeted at specific behaviors or tips to improve safety for different modes. So we're looking forward to continuing developing this program, working on the evaluation component, and including the survey that will launch in November again. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Before I finish up with the 2022 bike ped near miss analysis projects, could you advance the slide just one? I just wanted to kind of showcase the new logo for CME AZ that's been developed. I think it's a lot neater. What we're going to be able to do is apply it to several other materials. We're looking at, you know, if an agency wants to use these and they're having some kind of safety event during the fall or during the spring, they can use these on a lot of different things. You could put them on water bottles, you could put them on backpacks, things like that. So the new logo is meant to fit to pretty much anything you want to put it on. So I just wanted to showcase that. If you want to go back just one. So for the final on the fiscal year 2022 projects, the pedestrian and bicyclist safety analysis pilots, you're going to be hearing in a future today, you're going to be hearing from the MAG Emerging Technologies Program Manager regarding this program, but we do have the new Emerging Technology On-Call Consultant list has been established. Once those contracts are executed, we'll start planning for the remaining 10 locations where we did the basically the road safety assessments with the near miss analysis at the 10 locations at light rail crossings. All right, skip 2 slides there, Mohammed, if you could. Thank you. So I just wanted to put out a reminder. In July, we sent out a call for projects for the local agency safety studies. You may remember this is an open call for projects. It's open typically the beginning of July all the way through the first Monday in March of the next year. This is so that we can make sure that we can program those projects and get them done before the end of the fiscal year, which would be June 30th of 2023. And I just kind of wanted to also show you, this is the MAG Local Agency Safety Studies webpage, and just kind of showing you where to locate the application for download. So that is now open. You can go to azmag.gov/LASS. Next slide, please. So our roadway safety program, we received a really good amount of applications this year. You can see at the bottom there, we received 28 applications from 12 agencies requesting a little over $10 million. We issued that call for projects back on August 1st. The applications were due on September 17th. Right now, we are coordinating with the applicants from the various member agencies to provide some missing items and get them ready for to put on the webpage from where the TSC members can download those applications and begin their evaluation. The evaluation sheet itself is also on the RSP webpage. So, well, I'll be sending out, once they are ready on the webpage, I'll be sending out an email to everyone, letting them know that they're available and where to find that, provide you a link to that webpage. Next slide, please. So we're going to be doing this evaluation a little bit differently this year, hopefully with the revised evaluation form that we developed in the springtime this year. The evaluation should actually go a lot smoother. We would like to have questions and comments from the safety committee evaluation no later than October 24th. This is so that we can make sure that we convey those questions and comments to the applicant and provide a more efficient meeting for November 15th. We will provide the presentations ahead of time as well, a little bit further. This says November 8th, but I would really like to try to provide at least the presentations to committee members a couple weeks ahead of time so that they can review those. And then we'll come back here on November 15th and do the presentations and the evaluation of those projects. You'll see here on the screen that we are extending the November 15th meeting. We'll be starting at 9 a.m. and going to 3 p.m. So I did receive the go-ahead to provide box lunches this morning for committee members, and you may have another member of your staff actually doing the presentation. So it would be limited to those who are actually here in person and doing presentations and also doing evaluation. So next slide, please. And with that, that concludes my my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Margaret. Does that include coffee at that lunch?
Yes, it does. We will
Okay,
also,
thank you.
we haven't brought that coffee yet just because we don't have a whole lot of people here in person yet. I'm encouraged by more and more people coming in, so we want to encourage that for the meeting when we're going to be doing evaluations.
Not the only
Sorry,
one.
Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
I do want to make a quick note, though. We do understand that some may want to still attend virtually, and that's fine. The virtual option will still be available.
All right. Thank you so much, Margaret. If anybody else has any further comments, questions, feel free to email Margaret after the meeting. We'll move on to item 5, and that is the ADOT safety performance projections. The 2016 Federal Highway Administration Final Rule on Road Safety Performance stipulated 5 specific and safety performance measures that states and MPOs must establish targets and report on the performance. In August 2022, ADOT reported the established calendar year 2023 performance targets for Arizona. Carrie Wilcoxon, Arizona State Traffic Safety Engineer will brief the committee on the safety performance targets for the state. MAG Transportation Engineer 3, Mohammed Sheed, will provide a review of the MAG region crash trends for 2019-2021. I'm guessing Carrie will probably start us off first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is Carrie Wilcoxon, Arizona DOT State Traffic Safety Engineer. It's that time of year again where we talk about the safety projections and give you some idea of where we are on the current year's safety projections that we made 2 years ago. Next slide, please. When these safety projections were first developed, ADOT was, and to a large extent still is, behind on processing crash data and specifically processing fatal or death certificates. And many of you know that the analysis of our crash data includes not just the crash data itself, but also information from various sources, including vital statistics and other parts of the state. And we use all that information to determine what is a legitimate traffic-related death and what is either a criminal act or a non-motor vehicle death or a death on a non-public roadway. All of that was said in preamble to the fact that when we developed our projections, we were looking at just over 1,200 deaths on our state road, or actually all roads, all public roads in the state for 2021. Since then, that number has come down to about 1,180, but our projections had to be made earlier on in the year, so we used a higher number. As a result, we are projecting high in general, but that won't necessarily affect things for 2022 or 2023 since we're heading in the wrong direction. So these are some of the numbers you can see that we were looking at in the first part of the year. We were looking at a 14.6% increase in deaths over 2020. That has now come down to about 12% increase. Still an increase, but not as bad as it would have been. The other thing to note here, though, is that for the first time in many years, 2021 saw an increase in the number of serious injuries. Most of you know that the restraint use and restraint systems inside cars have gotten much better over the years. And so the chances that if you are restrained in your vehicle during a collision and walk away from that collision are much higher today than they might have been many years ago. But that being said, in 2021, we saw a pretty dramatic increase in serious injury recorded. And then there were a couple of other notable points, not least of which was the fact that 2021 represented the highest number of pedestrian fatalities we've seen in the state in the last decade, and the highest number of bicycle-related fatalities that we've seen in the state in the last 2 decades. So it was not a good year, and we are hoping that 2022 is better, although as of this morning, I believe, as of yesterday morning, the fatality count for 2022 is over 700 already, and that is a lagging number. We typically get more fatalities reports as they come in. So we're looking at another increase in 2022. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So real quick, these 5 areas that we are required to report on each year are the rolling averages for number of fatalities, the fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, number of serious injuries, the serious injury rate, and the non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. And although these projections are actually not due to FHWA until October 1st, when we finalize our HSIP annual report, we do have to have the first 3 ready for inclusion in the NHTSA required highway safety plan that is produced by the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. So our projections have to be ready earlier in the summer, hence the corrections for the numbers. Regardless, though, we are projecting 1,200 or an average 5-year average of 1,200 fatalities, 1.655 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, 3,659 serious injuries, and 5.039 serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And then number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries, we are projecting an increase to 793.6 statewide for the next rating period. Next slide, please. So we go through these numbers every year, and you can see that these are the trends since we came out of the Great Recession in the 2013-14 timeframe. We have been largely, not exclusively, but largely heading up in our number of fatalities. And we were predicting that there would have been 1,208 fatalities last year. That, as I said, is now down to 1,180. That's still not anything to brag on, although it is about 30 less than what we had seen in June. We are still projecting that we will see over 1,300 fatalities this year and over 1,400 in 2023. Next slide, please. The fatality rate We're also projecting an increase, despite the fact that our VMT for the state has taken a significant uptick since the I don't want to say end of the pandemic, but since normalization of pre-pandemic activities. But we are expecting that to increase this year, and we are expecting it to continue increasing out through at least 2023. Next slide, please. The number of serious injuries, although it did tick up pretty significantly in 2021, we do not believe that that trend or that increase will be emblematic going forward. We do project increases, more modest, for serious injuries out to 2023. Next slide, please. And we project a decrease in the serious injury rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. So that is flattening out a bit based on the increased number of serious injuries, but it is, we are expecting that to continue downward. Next slide, please. And then finally, we are projecting that our non-motorized fatal and serious injury crashes will continue a slight uptick. As I said, though, this past year was a particularly bad year for pedestrian and bicycle crashes and fatalities. And we are working with our local partners to try and figure out countermeasures to reverse those trends. Next slide, please. So we do require the MPOs and COGs around the state to develop their own projections or to adopt the state's projections. And I believe as of a few years ago, we were, the MPOs and COGs were allowed to adopt the state funds in perpetuity, or excuse me, adopt the state targets in perpetuity unless they wanted to deviate from those, accepting those. But they do have 180 days after October 1st to make known what their projections are or whether they are going to adopt the state projections. Most MPOs and COGs around the state do exactly that. We keep track of that, although our funding and the MPO and COG funding is not affected by whether or not the states or the MPOs and COGs adopt our practices or not, or our projections or not. Next slide, please. That's all I have. Do we want to take questions now, or do we want to wait until after the MAG presentation?
I think we could go ahead and take questions for ADOT right now, and then before we move on to the MAG.
Okay. Are there any questions? Other than why my K is capitalized in my email address. Kind of off-putting, but any other questions?
Hey, Carrie, this is Carl. I have a question here. It's been several years that we've been doing these projections / targets. Do we know how well we are? I don't know that I saw, maybe it was there and I didn't see it, but something that says, hey, this was our projection this year. This is what we actually did, going through. Because I'd be curious how accurate we are.
Yeah, Carl, that's a great question. It's normally part of this presentation. I think it might have been cut to save time, but every year we project based on our numbers, and we then get confirmation of this from FHWA. We project whether or not we made or did not make our projections for that given year. And we've been doing these since about 2016. Last year, 2021 was the first year that we did not make our projections. And I hate using that phrase because we are not trying to make our projections. We are trying to get to 0 deaths. But that being said, last year was the first year where we did not outperform our projections for 2021. Which means that we will be, I think we failed in 2 of the 5 areas, fatalities and fatality rates based on our projections. And because of that, and a lot of states are in the same boat, but because of that, we are going to have to come up with a revised plan on how we'll be able to spend more money on safety, more of the federal aid on safety, and we'll have to track it a little bit differently in ADOT. It doesn't necessarily mean much from a practical standpoint because we already are spending more than the minimum amount. It's a good thing in the sense that we will get potentially more money to spend on safety projects. It's a bad thing because it was actually a more awful year than we had predicted it would be. But yes, I can send that to anyone else if they want that. And we also keep track of the historical. So if anyone wants to know how we did as a state in any other years that we've issued these projections on, I'd be happy to share that with them. But it's a good question. Thank you for asking.
Anything else for Carrie before we move on to Mohammed?
Carrie, if that's okay, if you want to provide that to me, and I'd be happy to distribute it to the
Sure.
committee members.
Yeah, will do.
All right, I'll pass it on to Mohammed.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair and member of the Transportation Safety Committee. As you listen, Margaret mentioned that we do have the 2021 crash data available now, and we have put that into our RTSIM system. And now we have the real data from 2021, and based on that data, what we are presenting today is basically the latest 3 years of crash trend in the MAG regions for some of the elements, including the fatal and injury crashes, and also for motorized roadway users. Just to let you know that these 3 years of crashes, as you know, like 2020 and 2021 were pandemic years. So when you look into this data, just keep in mind that 2020 and 2021 were not regular years. As you can see, we had way more fatalities in 2020 and even 2021 when traffic started to come back to normal. But yes, when we look into this data, I think we need to take this data with a little bit of, grain of salt to keep in mind that 2020 and 2021 years were not regular like pre-pandemic years. So just another thing to mention that all the percentage that you see here are basically the comparison of 2021 data to 2029. So in the MAG region, as you can see, the total fatalities kept increasing from 2019 to 2020 to 2021, resulting in a 32% increase when you compare the 2021 data to 2019. For injuries, as you can see, injury crashes, it decreased when you compare to 2019, like state, but it definitely did increase 2020 and in the one, as you can see. In 2019 to 2021 by 25%, whereas bicyclist fatalities in the MAG region did decrease from 2020 to 2021, but it did increase from 2019 by 5%. So when we look into the arterial and local road fatalities and injuries, as you can see, the fatalities on our arterial and local road in the MAG region kept increasing from 2019 to 2021, resulting in a 28% increase. For injuries on arterial and local road in the MAG region, you can see there was a decrease from 2019 to 2021. But when you look into the 2020 to 2021, obviously, as you can see, there was an increase. So when we look into the arterial and local road intersection fatalities and serious injury, as you can see, from 2019 to 2021, fatalities at arterial and local road intersection increased by 19%, whereas the injuries at arterial and local road intersection decreased by 10% from 2019 to 2021. But as you can see, it did increase from 2020 to 2021. So when we look into the pedestrian fatalities happening at our arterial and local road segments and similar intersections, what we found is that when the pedestrian fatalities occurred at the arterial and local road segments, it increased by 22% from 2019. And when we look at similar fatalities, pedestrian and bicyclist fatalities at the intersection locations for arterial and local roads in the MAG region, you can see there was a decrease of 12% from 2019 to 2021, although the increase in fatalities for pedestrians from 2020 to 2021, as you can see, like significant increase from 34 fatalities to 43 fatalities in 2021. So this is the high-level overview that we wanted to provide to our members about the last 3 years trend, specifically on arterials and local roadways and intersections, and especially for our non-motorized users. Once we come up with our top 100 and do more analysis, the crash trends will be able to come up with more insights on latest 5 years of data using the latest 2021 year data available, and also the top 100 list that we'll be producing soon. So with that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take that.
Yeah, Mohammed, this is Sam Taylor. I have a question. Did you guys also, have you looked at like increase in vehicle miles traveled over that same time period, if there has been an increase?
I'm sorry, so I was muted, sorry. Yes, good question. So obviously, our transportation data program and modeling group keep track of the vehicle miles travel. There would definitely be an anticipated increase in 2021 VMT compared to 2020. We are still in the process of getting the 2021 VMT data. Once we have that, we're going to be using that data to come up with the number for the MAG region for those 5 metrics that Kerry presented. But we do anticipate that 2021 VMT is going to increase compared to 2020 VMT. And obviously 2020 VMT is way off compared to 2019, as you know, because of pandemic shutdown. But yes, if you look into our transportation data program provided data, some of the data are also available on the MAG webpage. Our program manager, Wang, actually provide a regular update on that data, like where we are at in terms of our pre-pandemic VMT. We are pretty much close to where we were back in 2019 to reach, although we are not 100% yet, but I think we are pretty close to reach to pre-pandemic level VMTs in the MAG region in 2021.
Any further questions for Mohammed?
I had a question.
Go ahead, Kerry.
Mohammed, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Mohammed, one of the things that we're struggling with at ADOT, and I think lots of states are struggling with this as well, is not necessarily tracking the VMT, but tracking the driver or road user mix. We aren't doing that at ADOT. We do believe it changed during the pandemic. We don't know if that change is permanent, although based on the number of people, even at ADOT, who are still working at least part of the week at home, we know that certain people do have more flexibility than others. And as I said, ADOT doesn't track road users, any demographics behind the road users. MAG may, and I'm thinking it's not MAG, but the trip production survey that's done every year. I'm wondering if there's any information that can be shared from that or the last couple of years, if there's been a shift in the number of trips or the types of road users using the roadway that we can learn anything from?
Yeah, I think good question. So, yeah, I think our transportation data program does have some information regarding what type of and how many type of trips are generated or produced from specific locations or clusters of locations to other clusters of locations. So I can consult with them to make sure like what useful data we can actually get from them actually.
That'd be great. I appreciate it.
So yes, thank you. It's Vladimir Lipschitz from AX. So basically TRP, yeah, we look at this data all the time, and definitely we see a sharp increase in telework. It's incorporated in our models, right? Another data source that's readily available, it's a recent American Community Survey data release that shows these percentages for large metropolitan areas and states. That's also consistent with TRP. So you do see a sharp increase in telework, no doubt. On demographic side, right? TRP doesn't have it. It's in our work program for this year. We're starting at pretty advanced, like massive whole survey to see changes. It's a very good question, but we also kind of have input indicators of changes in travel behavior and demographics. So household survey will address this as they usually do. So this process has been initiated, and we pre-selected consultants already. So the survey hopefully will start this spring to answer these questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
But TRP data and ACS data, they already readily available in terms of telework and origin destinations of commute travel. TRP is like more than 400,000 records. It's very rich in that sense data set also. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 6 on the agenda. And that is leveraging and evaluating new technologies via MEG's Emerging Technology Program. MEG Regional Transportation Plan, RTP, Momentum identifies emerging technology as one of the main programmatic areas to prepare processes and systems for the implementation of a new RTP. MEG established the Emergency Technology Program. The program provides technology and innovation services to member agencies to evaluate and leverage emerging technologies, while also separating technologies that may appear beneficial from those with offering real public value. MEG Emerging Technology Program Manager Shu Yao Hong and Transportation Engineer 3 Mohammed Shahid will provide an update of relevant efforts and solicit interest from member agencies for safety-related pilots. Pass that to Shu Yao first.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of MEG Transportation Safety Committee. Shu Yao Hong, MEG's Emerging Technology Program Manager. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide you an update about MEG's emerging technology programs and safety-related efforts, and more importantly, to talk about how this effort can help you and your agency to leverage and evaluate new technologies for solving your day-to-day challenges. And I know, as we heard, many of you are bombarded by vendors' sales pitch that what they provide is the solution to the safety challenges you are facing. So this is the essence of this program. They're trying to provide a service to you to help you navigate this dynamic landscape. Next slide, please. So first of all, I want to recap the context of why we are doing this. So to enable the region to respond and adapt to future transportation innovation that might have not materialized yet, a new RTP Momentum identify emerging technology as one of the programmatic areas, along with TISMO, ITS, safety, and many other programs. So the starting work of this program is really to prepare processes and systems for RTP implementations before it kicks in. As a forum of regional issues, it's also important for us to inform policy development about technological benefits, drawbacks, and potential socioeconomic impacts to residents and to a region. Our emerging technology piloting efforts, which I will elaborate more later, is also an example of a service we provide to our member agencies. More specifically, we provide unbiased information from independent evaluation of technology pilots to separate the technologies that may appear beneficial to those with real value. More broadly, we are also looking to accelerate the pace of innovation in the region, attract new vendors, talents, and technologies to a region, and broaden the economic impacts and benefits to all residents. Next slide, please. So the first thing, we turn to the intellectual resources in the state to help us navigate this challenging and dynamic landscape. So we formed a public university task force, which including ASU, NAU, and U of A, to help us guide us through the evaluations of technologies, but also help us look into the current state of practice in the region, in the country, and around the globe in terms of transportation development. As summarized in this report back in 2019, of course, a lot has happened, but on the conceptual diagram on the right hand here, really lays the foundation for our work to outline all the different layers and elements of emerging technologies or smart region technologies in general. And I would just also mention that Professor Brandon Russo, for example, who presented to this committee in July, is also in our task force. And task force members sign conflict of interest form and NDA as needed before they get engaged with the confidential information from vendors for pilot evaluation purpose. Next slide, please. So the centerpiece of our program is emerging technology pilots. I know many of you in this room are involved in those pilots in the past, so I will go briefly about it. So on the top level, you will see this program essentially acts as a matchmaker between the interests and needs from our member agencies versus vendors, contractor, and consultants' proposal and marketing efforts. So we are essentially finding a match between issue or issues with the solutions. As mentioned, we also have a public university task force under separate budget to produce independent evaluation of the technology pilots. There are many different ways that task force assists us. Some cases they hands-on to do the evaluations, for the pilot projects. There are some cases we use in-house resources for evaluation under their guidance, or we use consultants who are independent of the vendors and also has no conflict of interest with the vendors' products, and use their resources to conduct evaluation with task force guidance. On the other side, like many other processes in MAC, this pilot projects also guided by MAC's committee process. We provide periodic updates to policy and technical committees like safety committees today. And also the initial on-call was guided by a multi-jurisdictional technical advisory group to help us pre-qualify consultants and also provide periodic updates. MAC is also actively involved in multiple regional and statewide partnership as well. Eventually, all these efforts are helping us to guide implementations of RTP and Proposition 400 extension. Next slide. So when we start back in 2019, we were not sure how much interest we're gonna get, but eventually, actually, we got a very strong interest from our member agencies and also the private sectors. The slide here just give you a quick glance of all the vendors who are pre-qualified under this on-call with their sub-consultants. Next slide, please. So despite the pandemic, over the last few years, our emerging tech pilot on-call resulted in a number of different pilots over the region by different application types, such as ITS, safety, and planning, also by different technologies, by different modes of travel as well. On the map shown here, red pilots are the one we executed the task order and it's either ongoing or completed. You will notice we have a couple of them in orange or blue colors that are still in the pipeline. And if they materialize, they will go into the next on-call, which I will talk about it later. The other thing I want to mention is we really appreciate our member agency partners' support and interest in these piloting efforts. Many of the pilots require some either hardware physical deployments or access to a right-of-way or data feed from the member agencies. So without their support and interest, those pilots won't happen at all. But we do have some pilots that are more for planning process and data analysis that we take in-house. Next slide, please. So I do want to highlight two safety-related pilots and approaches for those of you who may have seen it in other occasions. So the first one, we conducted a pilot in collaboration with City of Phoenix and City of Tempe to pilot a number of different non-intrusive pedestrian and cyclist detection and counting technologies, as shown in the list and map here. I will just highlight two main outcomes we want to pilot in this effort is that we want to see if there's non-intrusive way to detect non-motorized users who are at crosswalk in the intersections, and then the technology has a capability to extend the clearance time for pedestrians if their green time is running out. We also want to collect non-motorized user count at intersection from these efforts to assist our active transportation planning efforts. We do have a pilot report because this is a concluded pilot that I can share for more details. Due to the time limit, I won't go into too much detail here. But what we learned, the key lessons is that there are many computer vision-based technologies that are mature enough to achieve a very high level of accuracy in terms of detecting and counting pedestrians and cyclists. But overall, we see a better accuracy in terms of pedestrian than cyclists. So that's kind of one lesson learned we got from this effort. Next slide, please. So the second pilot I want to highlight is actually in collaboration with the safety programs and the Valley Metro and cities of Phoenix and Tempe. So we utilize drone data collections plus AI-based video analytics for the near-miss studies around a number of light rail stations, which Margaret actually mentioned in the program's manager report for the first half of these RSA projects. So there are a couple of lessons learned we got from this effort. First is it's actually very labor intense and costly to run drones for very long durations. In these projects, we fly a cumulative of 24 hours per locations of drone video footage and fit it into a data analysis that you see on the screenshot on the right-hand side. So the other lessons learned we got is that it's a good supplementary information for the traditional safety analysis, which they typically look into crash data and field visits, site visits. Next slide, please. So looking forward, the slide here shows you the pre-qualified consultant under the second on-call for fiscal year 2022 to 2023, which we were just got approved by the Regional Council Executive Committee earlier this year. So right now we are in a clean state, trying to brainstorm and starting putting together the pilot projects and ideas. So this is where we want to solicit the committee members' interest for safety-related pilots. And that process typically starts with a conversation. You can either get in touch with me or Mohammed to start a conversation about what are the issues you are facing with and what are the technologies in mind, if any, and that might be able to tackle your issues. So as I mentioned earlier, that we really understand that many of you are bombarded by different vendors, products, sales pitch. But on the other hand, sometimes you have limited resources or time or even a workload to try something out. So the purpose of this program is to let azmag will handle the contractual work with the vendors and also provide a limited scale funding, provide funding for limited scale pilots in the region. So in turn, we will have you actively involved in project scoping, in methodology developments for the review and evaluations, and eventually to getting your feedback after the conclusion of a pilot project. So with that, I will turn you over to Mohammed to connect the emerging tech programs effort to the safety programs initiatives.
Yeah, thank you, Shuao, Mr. Chair and member of the Transportation Safety Committee. So as you can see on the slide here, so back in 2019, when we started the update of the MAG STSP or the Strategic Transportation Safety Program, we had a dedicated task to look into the application and safety implications of the emerging transportation technology. So we did a thorough review of the efforts that were already underway at the various level in the country, and we did document the noteworthy and the significant emerging technology application effort that were going around at the time during the development of the STSP. So what we found that the focus was mostly on connected vehicle and autonomous vehicle technologies, especially the larger projects, especially involving the federal and state level entities. And there were quite a few efforts involving emerging technology at the local levels also, especially the transit-oriented applications and pedestrians and bicyclist mobility-related applications. Feel free to take a look at the memorandum that we have available on the MAG webpage regarding these efforts statewide to get you a better idea about what type of application you have in your mind, or depending on your needs, what are you thinking can be a potential application of emerging technology in safety. So based on our analysis for this task in the STSP, what we found the potential application of the of safety to MAG emerging technology program can be based on the MAG STSP identified action areas. We have identified 4 action areas as pedestrians, intersections, lane departure, and safety data. So depending on your safety needs and the action area, and also some of the associated strategies that we have mentioned in the STSP, if you can make a connection and see a potential to apply emerging technology in that, feel free to contact with Shua or me, for further discussion, and provide us with your idea about how we can apply emerging technology programs resource to improve safety for your agency. At the same time, what we have found from some of our study, recently concluded study for drone near miss analysis, is that emerging technology program can also assist us in conducting some safety studies where you are thinking about some proactive safety measures. For example, nowadays you already hear about a lot of proactive safety measures where you don't really have the crash data to show in pen and paper that you have a demonstrated safety problem, but from your near miss events or risky locations which are actually prone to high serious injury crashes, you can try to contact with us to see if there's a potential application of emerging technology to improve safety by coming up with proactive safety performance measures such as the near misses or detection. Another way the emerging technology program can actually be very useful is that, based on the pilot test implementation, you can have evaluation of promising emerging technology that can be beneficial to improve safety. We know of some effort already at the federal level where they have actually evaluated some of the technologies associated with cell phone applications for physically impaired pedestrians or pedestrians with limited ability for their mobility. So just think about your ideas, your safety needs with respect to the MAG STSP action areas and associated strategies. And if you think that you have a good candidate idea for applying emerging technology, feel free to contact Shua and let us know how we can proceed on that front. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll open it up for any further discussion or questions to committee members.
Before we do, I'd just like to add something that was on one of Xiao's slides earlier, and that this is a program that already has budget available. So this is not like an application process like the local agency safety studies or anything like that. So this is budget that's already available. I'm sure you in the room, as well as those of you that are attending virtually, have a lot of things that you've thought about. It's a challenge for you. You don't, there's a solution out there, but you just don't know how to put your hands on it. This program could be really key in helping you address some of those challenges that you're having. The other thing that I wanted to just mention in talking to a lot of the local agencies that have been participating in these pilots, the City of Phoenix, mostly on the ITS end of the spectrum, have really enjoyed the interaction, not just with Xiao and his program, but also the vendors and the consultants. And they've been able to get a lot out of it and learned a lot. So I think this is a huge potential for all of you. If you have ideas of things, as Xiao mentioned, you can just contact him or you can contact Mohammed. So open it up to any discussion that we might have.
All right, any other discussion, questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move to the next item. Thank you, Shual. All right, item 7, this is the MAG Safe Routes to School program. As part of the larger regional competitive programs call for projects process, MAG set aside funding for the Safe Routes to School non-infrastructure activities. The calls for SRTS projects have typically taken place every other year in August, and applications are submitted for a 2-year cycle. In recent years, the total amount of funding requested in the application has been less than amount available. Ms. Herrera will lead a discussion on factors that may be influencing the underprogramming. Committee members are encouraged to provide input on the call for projects process and discuss resources as needed. Margaret?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Transportation Safety Committee. I wanted to bring this forward to the committee today to really have a discussion about, again, we talked about a little bit earlier with the emerging technologies, your challenges and your some of the barriers that you might have from, programming of the Safe Routes to School, the TA non-infrastructure Safe Routes to School, all the way through, administering, whether it be a Safe Routes to School study or a support activity type project. So if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. So as Mr. Chair mentioned, we have had some low submission the past couple of cycles for the TA's Safe Routes to School. And we want to discuss some of those factors that might be influencing that. I would really appreciate hearing from, if memory serves, we had a Buckeye apply recently, and some of you who have applied in the past, some of the challenges that you might have in developing applications. We can even talk about timing. Where this is headed is at some point in the future when we do have another call for projects, we would like to kind of revisit how we do that and make some enhancements to that, kind of similar to what we did with the RSP program to make it more accessible to you. With the main goal here is to, make it safer for our kids walking and biking to school. So with that main goal. So at this point, I'd like to just kind of open it up for any discussion on, some factors that might be influencing either your outreach to schools and districts. I understand just from knowing people that work at school districts or in schools, things are very, very hectic. They have a lot of different elements that they are concerned with on a day-to-day basis. In addition to that, you all as member agency staff and the roles that you play in your agencies, you are also very overwhelmed and very busy. And so the discussion is really how, what kind of resources can we provide? Is there something regarding timing of the call for projects and so on and so forth? So I'd like to open it up to some of you that have either that work with schools that have thought about applying that haven't, or some of you that have applied in the past for these, for the TA Safe Routes to School.
This is Ellie from Tempe. So as you said, a lot of cities are kind of overwhelmed with the staffing issues that we're having. And especially at least in Tempe, this is the case. It might be in other cities. Our focus is serious and fatals. We're trying to eliminate serious and fatal crashes. And then Safe Routes to School focuses on local roads where there are schools, elementary schools nearby. We don't have serious and fatal crashes. Speeds are so low that we just don't, they're not prioritized as the top of the line. So applying for a Safe Routes to School program gets pushed down under the priority of applying for something big like an SS4A or something where we're addressing these serious and fatals that are happening on our arterials. So that's one of the reasons that we haven't done it, at least lately.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
This is Carrie from ADOT. And I had a couple of comments and a couple of questions. As those of you who know me will know, I've always thought that schools would work way better if they didn't invite little kids to them. Traffic would be great and there would be no problems, but they continue to spoil the cheese with that. But until and unless they stop inviting little kids to schools, 2 years or 2.5 years now is a long time in a school staffing structure and in a school life cycle. And I'm just kind of wondering if if the schools aren't asking or if they're not even aware of the program as much anymore as they might have been at some other time. And I'm just kind of wondering if maybe we, and when I say we, I mean MAG, reach out to the schools and just kind of maybe educate them about the program, but B, try and figure out what they need. Because I can imagine the pure chaos that has occurred, on a regular basis, much less when students are coming back to school and parents are learning new routes again. It may not even be on the school's radar, so it might be a good opportunity for, and maybe we do it in conjunction with the next I guess it's already passed, but it might be something worth having a kind of an open house about what Safe Route to School is, what it means, and what it can do for some schools, but also use it as a listening session for what schools really need. And it might be surprising what kind of problems they're having. I know that I really haven't been involved in it since the city of Phoenix, and I knew what kind of problems were typical then, but that may be different now. So I'm just throwing it out. It might be a good opportunity for a future project.
Yeah, I would agree. The other thing, and it's going to be on the next slide, is we're going to talk about some of the resources that we have available to us that we're really trying to tap into. And I think what you're talking about, Carrie, is something that we might be able to facilitate with those resources. So absolutely.
Yeah. Hi, this is Sam Taylor with City of Scottsdale. I think one of our challenges is just coordination and communication with the schools. It seems like at the beginning of the school years, we get contacted by most of the schools in the city. We'll get an email saying that they have problems, but then we respond with different things and then we never hear from them again until the next school year. So it seems like they initially at the beginning of the school years, they're concerned about it. And then, 2 to 3 weeks later, they don't care about it anymore. And it's a continuous cycle, it seems like. So I guess my question would be, how much involvement do we need the schools to have in this program? Can we identify an issue as a city and then go through the process and then give the report to the school, or does the school need to be very much involved as well?
That's a really good question, Sam. all the literature that you read on Safe Routes to School programs, Carrie, you might have some additional insight into this because I know that you all are looking into kind of a Safe Routes to School study type program like your RSA program. That it's really crucial in the success of a Safe Routes to School program that you have that partnership between the city and the schools themselves. And so, there's also going to be, inevitably, there's going to be some either recommendations or things that come out of the study that may be on the school site. And so, coming up with recommendations for things like that, it's always, I feel that it's better to include the school in the process of developing that study or doing whatever Safe Routes to School activity there is, so they can kind of take ownership of it, right? So the city, obviously, if there's recommendations in the right of way, in the public right of way, the city eventually is going to have to take ownership of that. So having that partnership is really crucial, but I do want to understand better that dynamic, that communication, that coordination dynamic. And I think that's again, kind of the intent of this agenda item today is to kind of understand that better, or maybe come up with a strategy of how we can understand that better.
Margaret, this is Chris Onko with the city of Peoria.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, so I think one thing that the schools are struggling with, and we experienced this 2 years in a row, is a shortage of bus drivers. So much so that they had to change how they get students to the schools. For example, in Peoria, typically Peoria Unified School District students would not cross a major arterial, they'll be bused across. That is no longer the case because they can't find enough bus drivers to take on those routes. And so what the school district has done is at times had to hire an off-duty officer to help facilitate those crossings. And so I think because of the staffing shortage, especially with bus drivers and also crossing guards, those are the immediate needs of the school. So when we come in a city and say, hey, let's talk about your safe route to school, they're saying, you know what, that's nice, but I can't even accommodate the buses to serve the students that I need to, and I have to look at off-duty officers. And so I've heard what can MAG or the cities come in with resources to help out the schools? Well, they're struggling, and it is a lack of bus drivers, a lack of teachers, a lack of crossing guards, and so they're not amenable to be guided by a safe route to school plan when they can't follow it themselves and they know that. I could tell you even today, we're, I want to say, a month or more into the school year, and they still haven't filled all the bus driver needs. And I think this is going to be a reality moving forward. And so that's where the schools are struggling. And Peoria has a great relationship with the school districts. In fact, they call us and say, hey, we're going to have more students crossing out these major intersections. Can you adjust the timing of the signals to accommodate that? And sometimes we'll protect the left turn, so not allow left turns turning into where the pedestrians are crossing during the school times. We do that kind of stuff in Peoria. But I just want to share with you, because that's a bigger issue that needs to be addressed before schools will be open to sitting down with the city and talking about a plan when they got bigger needs. So thank you, Margaret and Transportation Committee.
Thank you, Chris. That is a great, that's some great input. And one of the things that I did also want to mention, because I know a lot of you probably were not on the safety committee representing your agencies back when in 2012, 2013, when we first were handed over the suballocation of the non-infrastructure for TA. We had convened a working group And that working group kind of came up with priorities. And I think to Chris's point, maybe some of the priorities have changed and maybe it's time to revisit that. The priorities were, the safe routes to school studies and the support activities. So that's the priorities that we're referring to here. So again, maybe the priorities have changed and we need to kind of reconvene and kind of put that strategy together. So I really appreciate your input, Chris. Anyone else?
Hi, Margaret. This is Carl with Phoenix. One of the things we're finding is oftentimes we're meeting with a school and we'll create recommendations. And there's so many things that say the city can do, and there's quite a few recommendations we recommend to the school. And oftentimes the school just flat out say, well, we just can't do that. One of the school examples we saw earlier, they gave a 15-minute allotment for all pickup or drop off this was morning to happen. They wouldn't let any students out of cars before 15 minutes before the bell for school started. And so they had an enormous queue inside the school, but past the bell for the 15 minutes when students started opening up, already that queue was filled and blocking the entire street. And we tried to recommend to them, hey, open the school just a little bit sooner. And they basically cited some staff policy or whatever type thing. And so I think some of it's just, it feels the partnership that used to exist doesn't exist as much anymore. It's one of the challenges we're having.
Carl, can you restate that very last sentence?
Yeah,
you're a little
I think, not a problem. Some of the partnership that I think used to more happen with the schools, it doesn't feel there's a partnership as much.
Okay, thank you.
I just was thinking that there is an Arizona State PTA conference every year in the summer where leaders of the Parent Teacher Association for every school attend. So that might be a good place to present some information on safe routes to school options.
That's a great idea. Thanks, Ellie. Any other comments or input from committee members?
Yeah, Aaron Pearson with Gilbert. I've only been down here for a few years now. When we first time the grant came out, we reached out to pretty much all of our schools to see if they're interested. And we did apply for a few grants that year. Some of the feedback we got for some of the other ones, a lot of them said, well, we did this several years ago, and either a couple of them felt like they didn't get much out of it. Other ones felt like they got information of things that they could improve, but they're like, well, we don't have the funding to change our circulation. And so it was that next step of what next is where they struggled with it. So the effort to pay out to them was something they weren't interested in getting into again. So some of the feedback we received why they were not interested in, like, well, we need more implementation funding than we do more plans, or they felt like their plan was completed recently enough that it wasn't outdated.
Understood, Aaron. Thank you. Yeah, that's always a struggle. I'm sure you as local agency staff, you have a hard enough time going and requesting funds for the recommendations on the public right-of-way portion of it. So I can imagine, and the schools themselves obviously can't get federal aid resources to implement anything on the school site. So they're kind of treated as a private developer. So that is a big challenge. So, all right, any other input? If you think of something you want to reach out to me just one-on-one, feel free to do that. I'm always here to listen to your input on these items. I do have another slide, just really quick. And then if, Chris, if you want to join me up here. Chris Gottsacker in the part of our safety team here. He is kind of charged with all things bicycle and pedestrian safety as well as safe routes to school. So I'm going to have him join me for a few seconds here. Just kind of wanted to go over some of the resources that we have available to us. A few months ago, you heard me talk about the fact that we now have focus, the FHWA Focus Approach to Safety program has now designated states and regions, and the MAG region is a focus approach region for pedestrian as well as intersection. Through the pedestrian focus approach to safety, we have been working with the FHWA group and their consultant on what kind of resources they can provide to us. And so there are a lot of things that we want to look at. One is kind of how do we provide more tools in the toolkit that can easily be used. And this would kind of go along with what Carrie was talking about. You know, we could roll out some tools that the schools can use and then provide them on a web page or something like that. We also have a partnership with ASU, and I'm going to let Chris kind of give you an update on what that is. Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. Thank you, Margaret, and members of the Transportation Safety Committee. So we primarily partner with Dr. Allison Poulos at Arizona State University. She is an expert in public health and primarily focuses on youth or adolescent health, and has done a lot of work on safe routes programs in the past. She's published numerous studies about the effectiveness and impacts that she's been able to research. So she continues to be a valuable resource for MAG member agencies and schools as well. And her main role, I guess, again, is more program implementation and evaluation then. One such way that she has helped us in implementation is we collaborated on updating the parent survey using much more sound survey science. And we've heard nothing but great feedback on that from both consultants and schools alike. And we have a new database to store and sort of track that ourselves, and it's a bit richer than the national survey that we used previously. And then she's also continuing to seek grants to fund more research to continue evaluating the impacts of safe routes to school studies and programming, and how studies can encourage, or if recommendations are implemented, to what extent and how that can impact the number of students walking and biking to school, therefore reducing congestion at school locations and in the surrounding community as well. So thank you.
Okay, so some of these resources are kind of ahead of the other. One in which you would provide, you know, a better way to implement some of these things, and then the ASU partnership would be, you know, how do we evaluate that? And I think if we have, as always, you all know that the more data we have, the better we can allocate resources to where it's needed. So I think the two are actually a pretty important tandem. I also attended the the American Pedestrian Bicyclist Professionals Conference in August this year in Minneapolis, and there were some really interesting sessions and presentations and posters actually that were related to school travel. One that I'm highlighting here is the San Mateo County School Travel Fellowship. They have several different programs. Of course, they actually work in partnership with some of their county health department their MPO, a district, to provide some of these things that you see highlighted there below. So in addition to that, the first bullet here, the outreach resources. APBP this year was very, very heavy on how to conduct public outreach effectively in the dynamic that we have right now with, trying to be more inclusive, trying to get equity into our programs. And there was just a lot of really good information that I'm going to be continuing to pull from as we go through this process and trying to make some enhancements and kind of reprioritize the Safe Routes to School program here at MAG. But we do have some good resources, and we have some, the ASU partnership, I think is really promising. And I'm really looking forward to see what we can do with FHWA on the focused approach to safety. So stay tuned for more information on some of these things in probably future program managers reports. And of course, I guess moving forward, some of the things that I heard today, thank you, Chris. Some of the things that I heard today is some education, some awareness on the program, outreach to schools, and potentially an open house, a listening session. Coordination and communication is a challenge. Shortage of bus drivers. The fact that local agencies are really focused on arterials and intersections where they have most of the fatality and serious injury crashes, and that some of the local roads and collectors are kind of get pushed down on the priority. So I got a lot of really good things to go with here. Is there any other questions or any discussion on this? And I probably will be reaching out to all of you beginning of next year to kind of reform that working group if you're interested in participating in that. With that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation on this item.
Thank you very much. We'll move on then to the next item on the agenda, and that is reports by committee members. This is the time I invite any member of the Transportation Safety Committee to report on any ongoing safety-related project activities of their jurisdiction. Maybe we'll go by roll call down the list for any reports, and I think Mohammed, if you wanted to just start that, and if you have a report, please encourage you to give a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, member of the Transportation Safety Committee. I'm gonna call out the name if you have anything to report. Kerry Wilcoxon from ADOT.
Yes, two things. We are getting ready for our 2022 network screening of statewide high crash locations. We'll have the normal 5-year crash data dump or normal crash data sifting. But we are also going to be doing a pandemic network screening. So we want to look at any unusual hotspots that may have come up during the last 2 years of the pandemic. So we'll be releasing that by the end of the calendar year and reaching out to the local agencies with information from them. And then with information to them. And then the second thing, we will be starting hopefully early next year, our update for the 2024 STSP, Strategic Traffic Safety Plan. And we are going to be advertising and starting to work on that in 2023 with the intent that we would have it published by October of 2024. And we are considering still shifting to the safe system approach as our driving document for the state traffic safety plan. That's all I got.
Just really quick, Carrie, to that end, we are being afforded a workshop, a safe system workshop next March. It might be good for you to attend that I'll be inviting everybody on the committee for your work on that moving forward in your STSP.
Sounds good. Thank you. Will there be coffee at that workshop?
I don't know, it is FHWA.
Yeah, dang it.
Yes, we will provide you coffee.
All right. Thank you, Carrie. Shane Kisho from Apache Junction.
No report today. Thank you.
Raj Toram from City of Avondale.
Nothing to report.
John Willett from City of Buckeye. Raymond Huang from City of Chandler.
Nothing to report from City of China.
Nick Russo from City of El Mirage.
Nothing to report from El Mirage. Thank you.
Chris Salas from Town of Florence. Aaron Pinkerton from Town of Gilbert.
Nothing to add today. Thank you.
Tony Abel from City of Glendale.
Yeah, there's only one thing we're working. We started the design on a Hawkeye 53rd and 53rd Avenue on Camel Peaks with Carl and his staff. So just wanted to let everybody know we kicked off that effort, and like I said, we will work closely with our neighboring. Hopefully, and that's it.
Thank you. Matthew Reek from City of Goodyear. Keith Drunaski from City of Litchfield Park.
The city has no updates.
Kerry Osborne from City of Maricopa. Mazen Muradovich from Maricopa County.
No report from McDowell at this time. Thank you.
Ryan Hudson from City of Mesa. Chris Limka from City of Peoria.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Carl Langford from City of Phoenix.
Good morning, everyone, members of the committee and chair. Phoenix does have 2 items to report. We would like to report we recently installed our 81st hawk in the city. It was actually just a little less than a year ago that we installed our 75th, and anticipate actually probably having 100 here not too long afterwards. So we've had a huge increase in some of our hawk aspects, a lot of them due to safety needs and whatnot. And then the other item we want to mention is our road safety action plan, our Vision Zero plan that we have been commenting on. It did finally get passed and finalized through City Council this past month. So thank you for those that maybe submitted some information on our surveys and whatnot. We appreciate that. With that, we have identified 41 strategies to improve the general safety. We have now a high injury network that we'll be working on to do several things. And probably the biggest thing for at least us directly is with that passage, we also got approximately 10 million annually to go towards safety projects directly. So we're grateful that that has passed, and now the real work actually begins. But wanted to let everybody know on that.
Thank you, Carl. Tara Herman from Pinal County. Jan Martin from Town of Queen Creek. Sam Taylor from City of Scottsdale.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. I had a couple things. So we are working to finalize an application for the Safe Streets for All program for development of a safety action plan. We've also recently conducted 2 internal road safety assessments, and we've got 3 more scheduled for the end of the year. We have a roundabout in construction currently at Miller and Osborne near Old Town, so that's exciting. And then we are also looking at doing a pilot project for delineator protected bike lanes. So we're looking for feedback from other agencies on their experience on those. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Sam. Dana Uzioni from Sea of Surprise.
No report from Surprise, thanks.
Ellie Valusin from City of Tempe.
Hi, thank you. One thing to report, we recently, in an attempt to prepare for our SS4A grant, we contracted with, just using our local Vision Zero funds, with Street Simplified to do a near miss analysis at 5 signalized intersections along Baseline Road. And we had a really great experience with that. So if anyone's interested in what they do, let me know and we could talk about it. We are also in design for 2 new pedestrian signals at crossings on Warner and the Western Canal. I'm sorry, that's the Kyrene Canal, and then at Guadalupe on the Western Canal.
Thank you.
Just really quick, and
yeah.
you might have noted on Xiao's presentation that Street Simplified is on the emerging technologies on call.
All right, Frank Sotil from Valley Metro.
Nothing to report today. Thank you.
And that concludes the program management, the report from the emergency. If I have left any.
Sorry, Mohammed, this is John. Well, sorry, I missed when you guys called my name. Vice Mayor called me about an issue. A couple things in Buckeye. One, we have a transportation planner advertisement on the street. Obviously, I need some help. 2, I just found out that while talking to an officer at a school dealing with a school crossing and kids playing Frogger across the road, we had 2 near hits of pedestrian students. So we're trying to resolve that in an immediate, fast process, mainly trying to get a school to put the signal in they're supposed to put in day 1. But what he found out is I have an intersection in Buckeye that's had 6 accidents this year already with 1 fatality. That was nowhere on the radar at all, and has now quickly become on the radar. So, and we have been using an outside consultant to help us with some safety studies. So that's the quick download version. And again, sorry that I missed my call. Have a good day.
All right, is that it? Thank you for those reports. All right, we'll move on to item, where are we at here? 7, requests for future agenda items. This is the time for any member of the Transportation Safety Committee to have any topics or issues of interest that they would like to have considered for a discussion at the future meeting. If you're thinking of any now, please state. All right, if not, if you think of anything, feel free to let Margaret or I know, and we could look to get that on a future agenda item. So we'll move on to the next item, and that is next meeting date. The next meeting date for the Transportation Safety Committee will be a special meeting held at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. And please note that was an earlier start. And I think Margaret mentioned it'll be till 3 p.m. and she said coffee will be there. Attendance in person is encouraged in the MEG 2nd floor Ironwood room for the extended meeting. Virtual options will be available. All right, I think just again too, I just as chair wanted to appreciate those presenters today, especially Kerry with ADOT. We definitely appreciates ADOT's partnership. He's always a wealth of information. So thank you, Kerry, for presentations today. MEG staff as well, very good job today. Appreciate that. I think I get to speak on behalf of the committee for that. All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn at this time. And it looks like local time is 11:39 and everybody be safe yourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.